This is the Baby Angel Geronimo editions Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting on Tuesday, 15th of August 2023. This one is part A, timed at 8:50 hours GMT edition. And we shall be talking about Yasmin Alibhai C. She has got a piece on page 40 of the I newspaper, and it's headed My Culture Heroines. Now, obviously, Yasmin Alibhai was recruited as a urgent emergency Muslim named anti-Muslim propaganda name to aid and abet the narrative against the Muslims that was launched in the late 1980s by using Satan Rishi. Yasmin Alibhai has got a third part of the name called Brown, but that is an imposter name as well, because that Brown name is actually the same individual who had been, quote, married to Marina Salandi Brown. Now, when in the 1980s we founded the Black Media Workers Association, Marina Salandi wasn't a Brown, she was just Melina Salandi, a young from the West Indian Caribbean background. But then she went on to add the name Brown to her name. It is the same individual that shifted away from Marina Salandi and got attached to Yasmin Alibhai. Now, both Marina Salandi and Yasmin Alibhai culturally are tools of the racists in the United Kingdom. And when I was organizing the London Collective of Black Governors, in our London-wide training programs during the 1980s, I thought I'd check with Melina Salandi, who was by then installed as a BBC employee, and to check if she had the evidence about any policy-based opposition to racism in the media, which was one of the things that we wanted to encourage by forming the Black Media Workers Association in 1980. So I organized the event that particular week at the Lambert Town Hall in Brixton. And Marilla Salandi Brown came and addressed the gathering. I gave her the platform. I invited her, so I gave her the platform. But it turned out that there was a immediate row based on jealousy between her and some other women who were participants in the program that I was running. And it was nothing to do with the actual principle. And the fact that I had invited her was not carried out in terms of the principle and in terms of the evidential reporting that I expected her to present. So she has, I think, since left the United Kingdom and is in somewhere operating in a Caribbean island. Before she did that, and after I had invited her to the London Collective of Black Governors event, I wanted her to send me a reflection on what she heard and what she saw at the training event that I had invited her to address and attend. It turned out that she was refusing to do that. Instead, one of the BBC's official nephew Toms turned out to be her line manager within the BBC. And he wrote a critical communication to me saying that my asking for the comments amounted to my harassing Marina Gandhi, which could not be further from the truth. I never had invited her for any purpose other than to assess the facts. The fact that she actually got this other criminal to write a critical letter to me showed that she had absolutely not understood the morality, the ethics, and the purpose of the campaign that I jointly founded, the Black Media Workers Association in the United Kingdom, several years ago. That was still the 1980s, of course. So I didn't expect her to reply to the questions, but I did respond to the criminal, her line manager. I cannot exactly quote what words and phrases I used. Suffice to say that I did say this male criminal to get lost. That shows the second person connected with the Black Media Workers Association betraying the founding aims and purposes of the BMWA. The previous one was Diana Abbott, of course. As I have said, Diana Abbott was given a job by the corrupt clique fronted by Ken Livingston, who had staged the coup against Andrew McIntosh at the GLC in 1981. Andrew McIntosh was the one who led the Labour Party group at the May 1981 GLC election. And Andrew McIntosh successfully defeated the Conservatives, fronted by Horace Cutler. Now, after getting the job from the GLC, Diane Dirty Die Abbott began to experience a lack of memory, and she lied. At an emergency meeting of the campaign held at a basement room in the county hall, as it then was, London Southeast 1, Belvedere Road, London Southeast 1, Diane Abbott was openly to her face described as a liar for the racists and was condemned for lying to the GLC fronted by Ken Livingston against the black community. Of course, I was one of the main organizers of that debate and denunciation of evidence-based, fact-based denunciation of Dirty Di Abbott. Now, she was then years away from becoming the wearer of the black section T-shirt, etc., etc. Now, when Marina Salandi Brown had this criminal, nephew Tom, a line manager, write to me saying that my asking questions amounted to harassment. It was only another vindication of my thesis that regardless of their ethnicity, their stated avowed position on particular principle of disclosure, etc., etc. In the general scheme of things within the political kind of mix of the United Kingdom, persons in positions of any responsibility refused to answer questions about what they were doing. Once installed, for example, the criminals that had the control of the East End News, which is supposedly to be the alternative to the East London Idiotizer when it was launched in 1981, based at the Victoria Park Square, not far from the Bethnal Green Underground Station. So the criminals included Mike Jem Shit of the NUJ Jackleston and Adrian White and the CPGB woman who was seconded by the Communist Party, Zelda Cart. It was about the same time that the just recently announced deceased BBC news presenter George Alagit joined the collective. George Alagit, of course, turned out later to be a liar against the Muslims and also at the same time a parasite to the Muslim organization, the one that was fronted by Pakistan's top civil servant during the military regime fronted by Ayub Khan, Altaf Gohar, the so-called Third World Foundation. It was after establishing himself as a participant in the Third World Foundation that George Alagit procured a job in the BBC. Once secured that he was being protected by the racists at the BBC, he then joined the anti-Muslim crusade and deliberately volunteered information about his role against the Muslims. So you can see what I am listing there. I've listed Dan Dirty Abbott, Marina Salandi Brown, Yasmin Alibhai, all Brown later, George Alagit. Now, if you examine, diagnose the evidence of the involvement of these people, you will find that they were initiated, entered in the world of media or politics in the United Kingdom during the 1980s and onwards. And all the comments that I've made are pure 100% fact based, which shows that the baby angel Geronimo is witnessing what was happening even before baby angel Geronimo arrived in the United Kingdom in decades later. That human beings, essentially human beings, need serious moral guidance, very serious, rigorous moral guidance. Otherwise, they are totally prone to behave selfishly, greedily, corruptly, dishonestly, cruelly, and treacherously, betraying every single tenet of high standard of behavior they otherwise associate themselves with. So, this is the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, broadcasting under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo editions on 15th of August 2023. And this is the day, second day, 15th of August, when the British government, fronted by Clement Attlee as Prime Minister in London, officially gave recognition to the Republic of India as a sovereign state. That was day after the Dominion of Pakistan was given a recognition as a sovereign state, 14th of August. Now, on the 14th of August this year, what we find in the running orders in Pakistan and about Pakistan is that the only international, objectively defined international achievement that is recorded in favor of a Pakistan born and Pakistan brought up person in the name of Imran Khan, Imran Ahmad Khan Niazi, they have been deleted from history. The only history that Imran Khan is most undeniably credited for is denied to him in the so called anniversary commemorative publications to mark the Independence Day of Pakistan on the 14th of August. The state machinery hijacked by the military released a list of achievements by Pakistanis and completely omitted, deleted the name of Imran Khan. Whatever next? I mean, they may delete the role of Muhammad Ali Jinnah next. So, this is as serious a breach and criminality as can be conceived of in Pakistan. It's not about Imran Khan, it's about the actual fact. This Pakistani, born in 1953, raised in Pakistan, very much a Pakistani born and brought up sports person, had a consistent record of excellent performance as a cricketer. So we back to the papers today, Tuesday, the 15th of August, 2023. Shall take a look at the piece that Yasmin Alibhai is now claiming some credit for recognizing. These are the four women that she's listing. One is Shazia Mirza, although born to Pakistani parents in Birmingham. Shazia Mirza is not representative culturally of Pakistani attitude. So she's there. And then the Indian, Sudha Bicha, is an actor. Sudha Bicha, and then Chila Kumari, and then Nazma Akhtar. These are people that are not contrary to the line that Yasmin Alibhai is promoting in the heading, "The white world didn't notice us, so we had to do our own thing." That is a lie. Because Shazia Mirza, of the white racist world appreciating an Asian woman origin who is denouncing the Asian culture. That is why they gave her the career spot in the first place. And Sudha Buchar has had various outings. And she is one of the people who was produced in the 1980s and 90s by the mainstream media. So Yasmin Alibhai is a liar, which is not a surprise. And the other two may be less known than the other, than Shazia Mirza and Sudha Buchar, but the original cultural narrative attaching to them is the same. So, what the Independent newspaper is doing in collusion with the ever lying Yasmin Alibhai C is creating a phantom platform, a phantom collection of cultural icons that really do not challenge racists and racism, do not have anything to do with imperialism and empire, and it is safe. These people don't threaten the status quo of the racists. Just as Yasmin Alibhai doesn't threaten the racist status quo. When she was recruited by the new SS, New Statesman and Society, and the SS is to be interpreted as being SS connectable with the Nazis in Germany. When she was Yasmin Alibhai, as Yasmin Alibhai was recruited as an opinion, source of opinion, that was done to introduce her as a Muslim named opponent of Muslims who were opposing Satan Rushdie at the very time that she was introduced. In the demonstration that we had, that is, we meaning Muslims who were opposed to Satan Rushdie's role, I was I was absolutely alarmed in a rhetorical way to notice that the midget-sized Amit Roy, a Bengali who has been on a platform by the Telegraph and the right-wing conservatives in this country, was among the crowd of protesters, guarded by about a 7 foot tall white man. It was interesting because Amit Roy would not have been personally known to people. I was probably one of about a dozen in the crowd who knew what he looked like, and I knew what he was used for by the Telegraph. So it was interesting to see him being guarded by this racist white young bodyguard. And his purpose, the bodyguard's purpose, became very obvious. The instant I spoke to Amit Roy about the then latest piece that he had written against the Muslims and in support of Satan Rushdie, this individual sprung to action and came very close to me and accused me of harassing him. Harassing Amit Roy, I was not doing any such thing. That is my job. I ask questions. If my questions are truthful, original, which is what they are, then they cannot be called harassment. But they can only be called harassment by those I am questioning. If they refuse to answer questions and if they are reluctant to tell the truth, which is what was happening there. And as happened in the 1960s, back in East Pakistan, at the Institute of Engineers, where Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was the main speaker at an event, and I was the only questioner. And I ended up asking 9 questions, none of which Zulfikar Ali Bhutto could answer or did answer or was able to answer. In the end, at the ninth question, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto became he looked very tense and eventually walked out of the Institute of Engineers in Dhaka, which is the capital of Bangladesh now. The Institute of Engineers is across the race course and is situated at the opposite side of the University of Dhaka library and the University of Dhaka Mosque and the University of Dhaka Teacher Student Center. And it's not far from the complex of buildings constituting the High Court, Supreme Court, etc., etc. And a decade later, in 1977, I asked the Indian Prime Minister at that time, Morarji Desai, a very complex but at the same time simple and obvious question about British racism and the India's role as a Commonwealth member of the empire formulations. That was July 1977. And Morarji Desai couldn't answer my question. Instead of being able to answer the question, Desai produced a tautological idiocy, which I mentioned in the piece that I wrote, as always, for no fees, in an outlet that was controlled by the overly funded mental slave, overly bribed mental slave propagandist for the cause of promoting Ken Lyons to Livingston. Riff Ali, otherwise known as Arif Ali, who was given the money from the GLC by Ken Lyons to Livingston for the supposed support for the GLC by the Caribbean Times, which is what Riff Ali has launched. Although the accounts were never published, not to my knowledge anyway, Ken Lyons to Livingston must have paid several million pounds to Riff Ali under that one, and also under the temporary other title that Riff Ali craftily produced as a justification for demanding extra money. He called it the Asian Times. Now, Riff Ali is from the Caribbean. Riff Ali is not from Asia. His ancestors may have come from Asia, from India or Pakistan, but I think his ancestors came somewhere from the subcontinent during the British Raj. But Riff Ali was born in the Caribbean. And nothing Riff Ali published in the so called Asian Times read like he knew Asia or he knew India or Pakistan or Bangladesh. The only person who wrote authoritatively, which is not a surprise, was me. But authoritative content and publication content Alfred Tang Chow is of Chinese ethnicity, but born, I think, in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, I think. Quite what his cause of death was is not officially or definitively known. But Tang Chow, like Rifraf Ali, was in the business of using the title for making money and had no interest whatsoever in informing the black community of what was happening politically in the United Kingdom. That contextually referred to the rights entitlements of the black community. When I gave the keynote speech at the UK wide seminar organized under my initiative through the Commission for Racial Equality and others, and held at the University of Nottingham during the 1970s. The following week, Alfred Tang Chow carried a diary piece about my speech. Although my speech was the most significantly appreciated of all the contributions, he tried to downplay it, focusing instead on the humor that I brought into my speech. Anyone who is familiar with my public speeches would know that there is always a consistent ingredient of original humor in my contributions, which I had done several years previously in 1981 when I gave the speech at the UK wide conference that I had initiated with the participation of the Commission for Racial Enslavement in 1981. The audio recording of my speech remains with Alex Pascal, who has been typically dishonest in not letting me having the copy of this. I have sent him reminders, but Pascal has managed to not give me the copy of the speech that I gave. I didn't record the speech, but he did. During the weekend where I ran the training seminar for would be members of the media with background from African, Caribbean, and Asian backgrounds, it was absolutely obvious that my keynote presentations were humorous and well received. But because of this stupidity in the personality of one individual from Senegal called Mokhtar, the private note that I had given him and to other speakers, Mokhtar proceeded to read out, but it had the opposite effect. Instead of coming across as embarrassing, these notes that I had given came across as being very competent notes for the guidance of somebody who was not used to public speaking and not particularly public speaking on the subject of the media and the training and the various details of the operations of the media in the So Yasmin Alibhai is doing what she does for her career, fake and create a phantom platform and phantom heroes and heroines. By that I mean that she does not recognize the campaigns that go on within the communities that are ordinarily made up of Pakistani, Bangladeshi, or Indian peoples. For example, when we ran the main actions to stop the Crossrail hole being dug in Brick Lane by the UK government, the work in the campaign, which I did, organizing, writing, researching, the work contained literally hundreds of thousands of items. And we didn't get the support of the so-called media, and we didn't get the support of any of the so-called ethnicity-linked media. We didn't need that because the strategic, legal, constitutional, and political work that I was organizing was hitting the targets absolutely perfectly, which is what I had calculated it would do, and it did do, and resulted in the destruction of the career ambitions concerned at that time of the likes of Abbas Uddin Elias Halal and Michael Crook, etc. And the pressure was insurmountable. The pressure that my campaign demonstrated in the Khoodeelaar campaign against the Crossrail hold was so effective that all the targets succumbed or collapsed, as I said, which is what the calculation was. So when I say about the alleged opponents of HS2, the alleged opponents of HS2 have had access to the money, hundreds of millions of pounds of public money, because they are involved as leaders, representatives, and post holders in various local councils that are affected on the way from London to Birmingham. Unlike that access to that kind of money, the Khoodeelaar campaign had no access to no money. And the Khoodeelaar campaign at that stage only had access to my knowledge, my abilities, and my foresights and my insights, which were sufficient and which are valueless and priceless. Yasmin Alibhai Brown, which is what I started that reference by referring to, never heard of the campaign, the Khoodeelaar campaign against the Crossrail hold. If she didn't do that, then she didn't do any of the other campaigns in the communities anywhere. This was the most high profile, most consistent, most substantial, legal, ethical, evidential campaign representing any part of the United Kingdom, any constituency, ever. For 100 years since the popular councillors of 1921 did that march to the High Court with the vow that they would go to jail if necessary. No campaign from Tower Hamlets from East London, nor indeed from any other part of any other constituency in the United Kingdom, had taken on the UK central government bureaucracy or the UK central government or central parliament, either House of Commons or House of Lords or Peers. But we did all three of those, and we made them retreat. In doing so, we didn't get the support of the elected councillors that were supposed to be in place at the times to represent the people of East London on the local Tower Hamlets Council. The only MP that was seen anywhere near our campaign was George Galloway. But as I have said extensively in the past, Galloway only came to our platforms because he had nothing else to use as a platform. Nobody else would give him a platform. And we gave him an invitation, opportunity, in good faith so that he would use the opportunity to state his position, which is what he did. And he had only to summarize what we had been creating by research, by investigation, etc. Jim Fitzpatrick from Poplar and Limehouse was opposed to our campaign and was a supporter of the KhoodeelaarTV attack, cross-rail attack plot on Brick Lane. And we exposed him effectively. And in common with the others, Jim Fitzpatrick could not answer questions that we put to him. We raised for his action. So back to the Times of today, Tuesday, the 15th of August, 2023. On the front page of the Times today, the main leading item or lead item is EU rejects New Deal for return of migrants. Now, this is about the European Union being approached by Rishi Sunak, who needs help from the European Union to stage the next stunt about him, Sunak, doing something about the boat migrants and the migrants crossing into the United Kingdom. The fact that the Times newspaper has got this stupid headline, EU rejects New Deal for return of migrants, is actually an intentional understatement of the fact that Britain is begging the European Union after Brexit. And if the UK was part of the European Union, this kind of pleading by Rishi Sunak or whoever else might have been the incumbent as Prime Minister would not have been necessary. European Union would be the internal thing and the issue would be internally dealt with among European Union members. One of the things that any intelligent reading of the campaign in support of Brexit would have made clear would have been this kind of consequences. Brexit was a lie, and all the practical day-to-day kind of contracts between the European Union and the United Kingdom, all the day-to-day contracts were being misinterpreted, misrepresented, misstated by the Brexiteers. And this is going to get worse. Because there is another report in the Times of today saying that most businesses are saying that Brexit isn't working for Britain. We shall be talking more about all of those issues in due course. This is now nearly 50 minutes. We shall end this particular edition at 50 minutes.